story time of a correctional officer who I knew who had sexual relations with 2 inmates. Now, this officer would walk around with his nose up in the air. He was stuck up. He was cocky. He just walked around like he was the shit, basically. And if you weren't, in jail, they don't have makeup. They don't sell makeup. Like, girls use colored pencils to do a little makeup, use coffee to make mascara, whatever. But if you weren't, like, naturally pretty, he would have nothing to do with you. He would treat you like you were garbage, basically. And you hear that a lot through, like, in jails and prisons that, a lot of COs are really stuck up and can treat inmates terrible. But the way he did it was just crazy to me, because he would flirt and be so nice and talk and stand at cute girls' doors, like, for minutes at a time. But then if he walked past someone who wasn't as pretty naturally, he would just ignore them. When I come back, I don't have time. Sorry. Well, sir, you just spent 20 minutes at this girl's door who was very pretty, But he was just so cocky and just, regardless of your status, regardless of your job, regardless of whatever, we are all humans and you're no better than anyone else. Okay, so they have the Weber County Jail in which he worked at, and he also worked over at Kiesel. Now, the jail is separate from Kiesel. They're still like correctional facility in a way. The jail is on 12th Street, and then Kiesel is on 26th Street. Now, Kiesel is a place where people who were granted work release by the judge, you get transferred from the jail to Kiesel, and then you get to go out, look for a job. You have your phone, you have your makeup, you have your clothes, and then you basically come back to sleep at the facility. And then, you still live like a normal life, but you just have to come back to the jail. And they could test you, alcohol, drug test, whatever, to make sure that you are, and they could also go to your job and make sure that you're where you're supposed to be. And if you get caught, obviously you could get sent back to the main jail. Well, aside from the work release, they also had a community service side, which basically inmates who didn't have like charges that are like terrible could go over and stay on the community service side, which basically is just a huge room and with like all these bunk beds everywhere. So, and a TV in the middle, bathrooms around the corner. So there was just like 30 girls in one big dorm, basically. And it was cool because you could go down to the store every night, which is you could buy soda, cookies, commissary, whatever. But in the main jail, you could only order commissary once a week, and it would come one day of the week, and then you would have to make it last. But if you went to Kiesel and you were on the community service side, even work release side, you could still go to the store every night. So that was kind of like a privilege thing. Also on the community service side, you could go out and do community service. You could go out and clean like the ice sheet. You could go out and shovel snow. The shooting range that they had in Weber County that the officers had access to, we would go clean up there. So basically you just go out, but you're still like, you're in a bright orange sweatshirt saying you're an inmate, these ugly ass jeans, and big boots. Okay, so community service, you could go out for like 5:30 a.m. and come back at like 3. But you had an officer with you at all times who drove you around. So you didn't have your cell phone. You couldn't, go anywhere or do anything because, she was right there watching you. I know there's ways around to always get things. People would call their family, hey, I'll be at such and such place today. Drop me this off, drop me that off. So obviously there's ways around everything. So back to the officer. Kiesel also had a program where prison inmates would go down to this program and stay in Kiesel. Basically the same thing. You could go to the store every night. They had like a really good program. I don't know what the program was called, but the prisons are always so full that they would county out inmates. So this officer was working at the Kiesel facility with the prison inmates who were counted out doing this certain program and having sexual relations with 2 inmates. The prison program, they weren't allowed to go out or leave at all. They had to stay there. And then obviously in their release date, you get sent back to the prison to be released. You don't get released straight from county. So he was in love with this one girl, and she's beautiful. I'm not going to say her name or anything like that, but gorgeous girl, but he got obsessed with her, okay? And to the point where it was creepy. The way he was so in love with this girl was just awkward. Now, I was in the work release side, so I hadn't gone to prison at this point in time, but I've been to the Weber County Jail several times, which I'm not proud of, and I've been in Kiesel on the community service side and work release side, but never in the prison program. So I didn't witness like firsthand, but girls talk. Okay. And another thing I got to say is that girls don't stick together. There's always going to be a hater. So there's always going to be someone telling on someone. Okay. Men are like easier. I feel like they like stick together in a way. I'm sure there's like haters on the men's side, but like I feel like men stick together and work together. Unlike women, we just hate on each other and we'll go rat each other out. Now, I've witnessed several inmates have relations with COs, okay? It was never my business. I didn't care, whatever. Yes, I was friends with one girl who in a relationship with a CO at one point in time. He would bring in batteries. We'd listen to her radio all day long, and it was awesome. But I'm veering off. Okay, so he was supervising over the female prison inmates at Kiesel, okay? And it's an older building, like it's still there today, but they had cameras that didn't really work. A lot of the cameras didn't work. It's an older building, so there was so many ways to get around doing sneaky stuff with. So the one girl that he was really creepy and obsessed with, she admitted to having sexual intercourse with this man over 10 times. And the second girl only 1 time. He also gave the girl that he was so obsessed with his personal cell phone number, and during the investigation he lied about doing that, but obviously she had the proof and all of that, so it all came to light. So he was investigated for over 11 counts of custodial sexual relations, but he was only charged with 5 counts of custodial sexual relations, which is a 3rd-degree felony, between August and November of 2019, I believe, and he was suspended from work December 10th. So during the investigation, it all came out and he was arrested. He was sent to Box Elder County because obviously he couldn't be sent to Weber County because conflict of interest, work buddies, just couldn't do it. He was a married man with kids, involved heavily in the church, and he's divorced, and I don't know what he's up to today. Yeah, I remember, though, vividly that I was still, in court with my own personal stuff, and I was in work release, too. So at the same time that he was supervising over these women, the prison inmates. But we didn't ever, we would see these prison inmates in the hallways and stuff, or they come down and do laundry. If you were on the community service side, you would have to, one of your jobs was laundry. So even if you go down to the store, they try to keep you separate, but clearly it doesn't always happen that way. So there are always ways to pass kites, notes, people talk. So we all knew what was going on. And like I said, it was an older building. It was an older jail back in the day. Kiesel was. And at the very top of the building, it's like a rec area where they had fake cameras that didn't work. So there was just so many ways. Okay, so I remember seeing him in the courtroom. I had court and I'm sitting on the back row and I look to my right and I see him and I'm like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. But like I said, I have seen it. It was just so crazy seeing him actually charged, because I have so many other stories that I wanted about how some correctional officers get caught, but they don't get charged, and it's covered up. During COVID, I know that Kiesel was shut down, so I don't know if it's back open yet because I haven't been in trouble or been back there. I do know that prison inmates are no longer counted out to the Weber County, and then that prison program in Kiesel was shut down because of this officer and his sexual relations with these inmates. Part 2 of CO who was arrested for having sexual relations with 2 inmates. Both girls admitted that these were consensual, okay, which I knew that. But if you guys didn't know that as inmates, we cannot give consent. It doesn't matter if we do give consent. If you are in custody, like, you can't give consent, and it's so crazy. So he was sentenced to 60 days in jail, and he was granted work release. So he most likely probably did like about a week in custody before transferred to a facility to do work release. But clearly it wasn't at Kiesel because, again, he worked for that county. So it was Box Elder County. And I don't know how their work release program works, but yeah, he got a total of 60 days in jail with work release, which to me, I feel like he should have done the full 60 days, but who am I to judge, right? Because I got it passed. 41 years old. I'm pretty sure that he didn't have a record, obviously, because he was a corporal at the jail. So I didn't know the man personally, but I knew him from in the jail and in Kiesel. And like I said, I've been in and out of Weber County a lot of times to know this man and know of the relations, know the prison inmates and all of that. And all of this happened. And it's just crazy. That's the story. And I have plenty more. I'll have to do more story times, especially the prison one where it was covered up. She was fired, but it was covered up. But I have a clip of the news article of the officer and everything.
Learning more tonight about the arrest of a Weber County corrections officer. Investigators say Jeremy Miller had sexual relations with at least 2 inmates inside of the jail. According to court documents, both women say it was consensual. Investigators also say Miller provided his personal cell phone number to one of the women so that she could contact him when released. Miller was placed on administrative leave on December 10th and arrested this week.